In the present day, many organizations seek to sow fear and chaos to impose their dominance, employing any weapon within reach, whether magical, extraterrestrial, or of unknown origin. This is the story of an unusual hero, whose bravery will help us face an unprecedented threat looming over the world like a dark shadow. Agent B-12. Agent B-12, echoed a hurried voice through the hallways. Does anyone know where the hell Agent B-12 is? The voice sounded anxious, almost desperate, as if fighting against time itself. Sir, Agent B-12 is on a mission against the organization Blood Blue, replied Marie, the secretary, with professional calm as her fingers flew across her computer keyboard. What do you mean, on a mission? He was supposed to be here. Contact him immediately. I expect him at headquarters right now, ordered the boss in a tone that brooked no argument. At once, sir, said Marie, rising quickly from her seat. She pulled out her cell phone and dialed the agent's number. The ringing began, but at the other end of the line, the agent was trapped in a dangerous situation. Bip, bip, rang the phone. Ah, I see they're calling you, Agent B-12, but I don't think you have time to answer, mocked a cold, evil voice. It was the lead scientist of Blood Blue, a tall and thin man with grayish hair and eyes as dark as bottomless pits. His laughter echoed through the room, laden with arrogance and cruelty. Mr. Agent, do you once again wish to destroy my creations, which will benefit the world? Asked the scientist with feigned innocence, slowly approaching where the agent hung upside down, suspended by a rope tied to his feet. Below him, a tank full of acid bubbled with a greenish glow, promising a painful death. Will your creations save the world? I don't think so. You only seek to satisfy your ego and enrich yourself at others' expense. I will always stop you and any lunatic who wishes to cause harm, responded the agent firmly, though his position was precarious. His voice didn't waver for a moment, reflecting his unwavering determination. Ha! The scientist burst out with another shrill laugh. And how do you plan to escape this trap? Agent B-12 hung suspended in the air, his body swaying slightly as he eyed the acid beneath him. The situation seemed hopeless, but at that moment, his voicemail activated. It was Marie, speaking with urgency. Agent B-12, the boss wants you to return to headquarters immediately and as soon as possible, meaning now. Well, if the boss says it, it must be urgent, muttered the agent to himself, a wry half-smile tugging at his lips. Without a second thought, he pulled a small pistol from his sleeve, its barrel emanating intense heat. With pinpoint accuracy, he melted the rope holding him and, using the momentum, swung on the remnants of the rope until he reached the cabin where the scientist and his henchmen were. With a swift motion, he shattered the glass of the cabin and landed on them like a bolt of lightning. The sound of blows reverberated through space as the agent drew his paralyzing gun and left all the enemies unconscious on the floor. Then, with military efficiency, he tied up the men and called the cleanup team, which arrived instantly. Wow, Agent B-12, always keep your word, remarked the head of the cleanup crew admiringly as they gathered the prisoners. Well, I've done my duty. I need to go, the boss is calling me, replied the agent with a confident smile before heading toward the exit. But just as he was about to leave, the mad scientist, who had managed to free himself, shouted from the ground. Damn you, Agent! You'll pay for this, as he was dragged into the cleanup unit's vehicle. The agent climbed into his car, a brilliant blue convertible whose body seemed to capture and reflect every nuance of the clear sky above him. With a powerful roar from the engine, he sped off toward headquarters, leaving behind a trail of speed and determination. The headquarters, hidden behind an innocent facade, a modest bicycle shop, was the epicenter of secret operations that few knew about and even fewer understood. Upon arriving, a familiar silhouette emerged under the dim interior light. When the door opened fully, it revealed a 30-year-old man whose presence commanded respect without the need for words. His wavy brown hair fell naturally over his forehead, framing a face that balanced strength and refinement. His physique was athletic but balanced, with defined muscles that spoke of long hours of rigorous training, though not exaggerated like that of a bodybuilder. His sun-kissed complexion, shaped by days spent outdoors, gave him an adventurous air, while his deep blue eyes, as calm as the sea, radiated a mix of confidence and mystery. Every time he smiled, it was with a perfection that felt genuine, never arrogant, and his steady gaze had the power to captivate anyone who dared hold it for more than a few seconds. He was the kind of man who didn't just draw attention but also inspired admiration, and, in some cases, a hint of nervousness. "I'm here, Miss Marie," announced the agent casually as he entered. Marie, a young woman in her 20s, exuded maturity beyond her years. She was tall for her average height, with her hair always tied back in a high ponytail that gave her a professional yet youthful air. Her peach-toned skin stood out against her large, dark brown eyes, as rich as freshly brewed coffee. She always wore an impeccable black suit that accentuated her figure and discipline. Though Agent B12 maintained a professional demeanor in her presence, and around her, it was as if his usual confidence melted away in front of this woman, who, without intending to, awakened something special in him. He felt a nervousness that made him blush. Naturally extroverted, he transformed into someone reserved, almost shy. "Well, the boss is waiting for you in his office," replied Marie, briefly meeting his gaze with a faint blush on her cheeks before returning to her work. The agent began walking through the hallways, drawing admiring glances from both agents and administrative staff alike. He stepped into the elevator that led to the heart of the headquarters, located on the third sublevel. The entrance to the boss's office was a heavily fortified door with advanced security measures. To gain access, one had to pass through a retinal scanner, a fingerprint reader for all 10 fingers, and recite a secret phrase known only to top-ranking agents like him and Marie. With a firm voice, the agent declared, "The darkness of the fallen is overshadowed by the light of the sun." A metallic voice echoed from the monitor. "Password and data confirmed. Proceed, Agent B12." The room was spacious, large enough to accommodate more than 50 separate beds or even an Olympic-sized pool, with plenty of space to spare. Inside, a conference table occupied the center, surrounded by giant monitors covering the walls. A gallery of technological gadgets, innovative weapons, and specialized suits was proudly displayed alongside sports cars designed for high-risk missions. Scientists and technical personnel greeted the agent, some congratulating him on his recent exploits. At the end of a well-lit corridor stood the boss's office. The door was slightly ajar. The agent entered and stopped in front of a desk covered with awards and medals that narrated the leader's glories. The walls were adorned with photographs and trophies showcasing the boss's most notable missions. "Well, boss, I'm here. What is it you need so urgently?" "What am I good for this time?" asked the agent with a half-smile, trying to lighten the mood. "Stop fooling around with me, B12. I told you to be here immediately. This can't wait." "Close the door, what I have to tell you is confidential," replied the boss seriously. The agent obeyed and closed the door behind him. "What's going on, boss?" "Before we begin, Miss Marie, come here at once," ordered the boss. A pneumatic tube opened, and Marie emerged, adjusting the collar of her suit as she walked toward them. "Yes, sir," she said professionally. "I've called you here because I need you to understand the situation as well. According to our sources, there's an experimental weapon being developed, or perhaps already completed, by the criminal organization Oceans, direct rivals of Blood Blue. But this weapon, it's not from this world. It doesn't belong to this solar system, it might even come from another one entirely. Our sources haven't confirmed all the details yet, but this could be catastrophic." Agent B12 furrowed his brow, though his tone remained relaxed. "If they're as incompetent as Blood Blue, it'll be easy to take them down." "I don't think it'll be that simple," interjected Marie, her expression serious and revealing genuine concern. Her voice trembled slightly as she continued, "Several of our best units have perished trying to infiltrate their operations. This mission won't be like the others." The atmosphere in the room grew heavy, charged with tension. The agent felt adrenaline coursing through his veins. He knew that what he was about to face would be a test like no other. At that moment, one of the monitors came to life. It was the last infiltrated agent who had managed to survive long enough to send a crucial message. His voice was strained but filled with urgency. This weapon has already been completed. There's no time to lose, sir. They're leaving in 2 hours. If we want to obtain this weapon, now is the moment. The boss nodded gravely and turned to Agent B12. Well, Agent, go to the technicians. Have them equip you with everything you need. Head to the location indicated by our infiltrator. The agent returned to the main room and approached the technicians, who quickly began outfitting him with everything necessary for the mission: compact weapons, advanced communication devices, and specialized infiltration tools. Without wasting a second, he climbed into his blue convertible and sped off toward the meeting point with the infiltrated agent. Good luck, Agent, said the boss solemnly, while Marie added, almost in a whisper, you'll need it. Upon arriving at the agreed-upon location, Agent B12 met Agent I5, a young man of 18 or 19 who appeared even younger, as if he had barely left adolescence behind. His eyes reflected a mix of nervousness and admiration. Sir, here's the information. The artifact is in that gigantic plane. It looks more like a spaceship than a conventional aircraft, the young man reported quickly, handing over a device containing crucial data. Well done, kid. Now go, replied Agent B12 firmly, though his tone wasn't harsh. But, sir, you'll need my help, insisted the young man, taking a step forward. You've done enough by exposing yourself to danger. Return to base without being seen. That's an order. Agent I5 hesitated for a moment but finally nodded with determination. Yes, sir. I really admire you, he said before turning to leave, only to pause briefly and add, Sir, please be careful. Agent B12 gave a brief smile, though he knew the next few hours would be anything but easy. With stealth, he made his way through the henchmen guarding the hangar, neutralizing each enemy he encountered along the way. Finally, he reached the plane and slipped into the rear just as the doors began to close. Oh no, he muttered under his breath, feeling the plane vibrate as it began to take off. There was no turning back now. His phone started ringing. It was Marie. How's it going? She asked, concern evident in her voice. I'm still working on it. I'm switching to the earpiece communicator, he replied as he adjusted the device in his ear. According to Agent I5, what we're looking for is in Room 2, which is the laboratory. Let's see what we find, Marie instructed. Agent B12 moved quickly, accessing the plane's ventilation system. He crawled through the narrow ducts, feeling the cold metal beneath his hands and hearing the distant echo of voices and footsteps beyond the walls. Finally, he reached the room marked with the Roman numeral 2. Breaking through, he was left speechless by what he saw: a metallic egg suspended in midair, and inside it, a sphere that seemed to contain an entire universe. Tiny galaxies rotated slowly, emitting hypnotic flashes of light. Wow! That's incredible, he murmured, sending a visual capture to Marie. Back at the base, both she and the boss were left speechless upon seeing the image. You must obtain it at all costs, the boss ordered urgently. Well then, let's get to work, Agent B12 responded, though something in his tone suggested he knew this wouldn't be as simple as it seemed. He emerged from the ducts with feline agility, ran toward the artifact, and began doing what he did best, creating controlled chaos. He struck down a couple of guards who tried to stop him, approached the egg, and carefully detached it from its mount. Holding it firmly, he was acutely aware that he now carried something that could change the fate of the world. I need to find a parachute or something to jump and escape from here, he thought aloud, scanning his surroundings as he evaluated his options. But what Agent B12 didn't know was that something had reached him from behind, piercing his right shoulder with lethal precision. It was a tentacle sharp as a spear, emerging from the darkness like a creature born from a nightmare. He turned quickly, though he could barely make out anything in the dim light. What he saw froze him in place. A grotesque figure was shedding its human skin, revealing beneath it a horrendous creature worthy of a science fiction movie. Its outlines were blurry, but its movements were swift and deadly. With no time to investigate further, the agent reacted instinctively. Pressing one hand against the bleeding wound, he pulled out the camera embedded in his chest plate and captured several photos of the creature. The tentacles began pursuing him, destroying everything in their path with inhuman ferocity. That's when a bold idea struck him: use them to destroy the ship. Before arriving, he had strategically placed explosives at key points. Now, as he ran, he activated some of them, triggering a series of explosions that lit up the interior of the ship like destructive fireworks. The crew, realizing the chaos, began firing at the agent from all angles. Bullets whistled around him, but he zigzagged through the debris, dodging each attack with the agility of a cat. Behind him, the creature launched its tentacles uncontrollably, piercing anything they encountered, including its own comrades. Wow, those tentacles are as long as that comic book character, the agent thought, a mix of admiration and panic crossing his mind. Finally, he reached a room where the escape pods were located. He knew he couldn't board without ensuring the creature wouldn't survive. He placed a couple more explosives at the entrance, hoping the beast would fall into his trap. When the creature appeared, he remotely detonated the charges. A series of explosions shook the ship, and for a moment, he thought he had finished it off. But before he could celebrate, 2 tentacles emerged from the smoke and pierced his abdomen, spilling blood everywhere. With a muffled cry, the agent pulled out his laser knife and cut the tentacles with desperate fury. Then, with one final effort, he threw himself into the pod and activated the ejection system. As the pod plummeted toward Earth, the ship disintegrated into a fiery ball behind him. From the base, Marie tried to contact him through the earpiece. "What's happening, Agent? Are you okay?" "Yes, everything's fine. I have the package," he replied in a strained voice, though his tone betrayed the pain he was in. He was losing a lot of blood and could barely stay conscious. "Oh my God," exclaimed Marie, alarmed by his labored breathing. "We'll track your location using the GPS on your phone. Stay stable, Agent. We're on our way." Inside the pod, the agent tried to stop the bleeding, but the turbulence made precise movement impossible. Finally, the pod crashed into a dumpster in a dark alley. With the little strength he had left, he clutched the artifact and began dragging himself, leaving a trail of blood behind him. At that moment, a small, dirty, and scruffy dog appeared in front of him. It looked as if it had never been bathed, but its eyes shone with innocent curiosity. The animal approached slowly and began licking his wounds and face. Despite the pain, the agent managed a weak smile and extended a trembling hand to pet it. His vision began to blur, and the world around him faded little by little. Suddenly, the artifact he held in his arms emitted a powerful light that enveloped both him and the dog. The luminosity was so intense that it could be seen from miles away. When the light finally dissipated, both were flung in opposite directions. The agent's body lay motionless on the ground, apparently lifeless, or so it seemed. The dog, on the other hand, rose unsteadily. In his mind, a deep and mysterious voice echoed. "Congratulations, you have acquired the JORGS system.